we give our first impressions of the all-new 2020 Hyundai Palisade, discuss how important it is for a teen to learn how to drive with a manual transmission, and pick the perfect road trip car for one of our colleagues. Next on Talking Cars. Hi everybody, welcome to another episode. I'm Mike Monticello.
I'm Mike Quincy.
And I'm John Lincove.
And you know, it's summer. And you know what that means, right guys?
Sweating.
Yeah, sweating. And also road trips. And we know a lot of you people out there watching and listening are going to be taking road trips with your family and friends. And also we're going to be taking a lot of road trips here. It gives us a good time to, further evaluate all the test cars we have. Those of you that are new to the show, we buy all of our own test cars and we put break-in miles on them. We put them through our test program and then we keep them for several months afterwards to do further evaluations, possible comparisons with other cars that we get in, as well as testing the advanced safety systems and also
hopefully not testing them.
Well, no, Sean Sinclair
there we go.
And Kelly Fonkhauser are out there testing the safety systems on our test track. But it gives us the chance to spend a lot of time with a car. And John Lincove here made the mistake of telling Quincy and I that he's going to be taking a week-long road trip to Montreal, Canada, and back through Burlington, Vermont in a few weeks. And what's rare about this trip for him, John has two of the cutest little kids ever. Oh. But usually they go with them on all their road trips and vacations. And this time, it's just going to be you and your wife.
Because it's illegal to leave them at home by themselves.
But so he said, you guys should find us a road trip car. And so don't give Quince and I the chance for that.
Oh, no.
So that was the deal was we each make a case for a road trip car. Mm-hmm. And then he's going to choose which one of these he thinks is the best fit. And he has to take this car. Like, that's the stipulation. But he made some stipulations, which is, he said the car must be easy to park in a city, must be roomy enough for bags and beer coolers. I don't know what he would need a beer cooler for.
Well, that good Canadian beer, eh?
And
yes,
hoser. And also he said it can't be something that will be miserable in the rain. And he specifically said no BMW Z4.
See, it's so small, right? Funny because that was going to be the first one I went to because there's no back seat. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's some of the stuff like, look, parking a car, I don't want to run into something where if I park it in Montreal, it's like, oh, it's, the Hyundai, Palisade, Kia Telluride, a Chevy Suburban size vehicle.
You don't want a vehicle.
An extra $40 a day to park it.
Right, and it's also just so awkward. It's so huge to get these things around.
Trying to park it on the
street. And I already did that once for a bachelor party with a Tahoe. And the thing with the Z4 type of thing was, it's like, you just don't, 300, 400, 500 miles in a car where it's pouring rain and it's a little convertible. It's just not pleasant.
I hear you.
Yes, if it was back roads through Vermont, it would be great, but likelihood is there's going to be rain.
So that's the game we're playing.
That's the game.
Quince, you're going to go first. Tell John what car have you picked out for he and his wife to take on this awesome road trip?
Well, when I heard about this this whole scenario, I thought, oh, that's so awesome because I have two kids too. They're somewhat older than John's kids. So the first time that my wife and I could get away on just the two of us road trip, I just couldn't wait. I mean, you love your kids, but boy, it's nice to just kind of get away, just the two of you. So I thought, okay, no kids. You don't have to worry about a back seat. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about, okay, you're going to be driving up to Canada, good fuel economy, and in my opinion, a good sound system. Because I don't know about you, how much music you play in your house, but like we had Green Day, but we couldn't like play it in front of our kids because it was just full of curse words. So I'm thinking, okay, you're going to play all those CDs or whatever you can't play before, and you're going to play it at a loud volume. So I thought BMW 330i, great gas mileage, a really good cruising range, a decent ride, good handling. It's a satisfying car to drive. I know that's important. You don't want just some floaty thing that's going to make you fall asleep. Yeah. So I thought that would be an awesome one. Because the weaknesses of the 330i are stuff that you don't really have to worry about, namely the small backseat.
Sure. Yes.
As well as the kind of stiff ride.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a problem.
It's stiff, but I mean,
I think you
but it's not jarring. I don't think the 3 Series is jarring.
So I actually picked. I think that's an excellent choice, Quince. But
it's good.
Okay, Johnson's a good choice.
Acceptable.
Hang a tag on the board.
Okay. So I came up with sort of a similar car, the Genesis G70.
That was my second choice.
And I'll tell you why.
That was my second choice.
I went with that for a couple reasons. Many reasons. But one is it actually has an almost shockingly small rear seat.
Yep.
And so, but in this case, you don't have to worry about that. That doesn't matter. But it has a really nice interior. The front seats are super comfortable. Very easy controls, which is important on a long trip. You don't want to be annoyed with the controls. Really nice drivetrain. Handles really well. So those are my suggestions. And now, grace us with your pick.
Well, so it's interesting in the quasi great minds think alike. So I put the question out to John Ibbotson, who's our chief mechanic and runs our shop. He also is the keeper of the keys, and we've shown the keyboard before.
Very important person.
Always make friends with John Ibbotson.
Exactly. And I said, look, what is something that needs miles in the sense of evaluation, but people haven't claimed, or it's not in testing, or we're not going to sell it. It's not in a weird space. And I had said, look, two of the cars I was looking at, possibilities, the Cadillac XT4 SUV, because of the space, because of the size, because of the interior room, and the G70.
Yeah.
So he assigned me the XT4.
Oh, jeez.
So
see, I think that I find that so boring to drive, though.
Well, the problem is that Mike put his name on the BMW 3 Series for the same time period. So
some host you are.
So apparently, no. So apparently, per rules of the table, he has to get out of it, and I get the 3 Series.
Well, you see, no. Only if you choose the 3 Series. But I also want to say that this show, everyone knows that the podcast, gets priority over any other decision.
So you're using it for research purposes?
No, I'm saying if we say that he has to take the G70, then he has to take the G70. And if you have to take the 3 Series, I will take the G70 while you take the 3 Series. So what is your
actually, we want to know.
Everyone out there wants to know.
I would take the 3 Series.
Okay,
and here's the reason. So I took the G70 on a trip, a boys' weekend to Portland, Maine, and there were 3 of us, and it was very tight, like you said, but
in the back seat.
In the back seat, but 3 people.
Right.
But the cockpit, the driver's area is still small. Even if you push the seat back, it's still not great. The 3 Series is a bit roomier. The 3 Series is a little more exciting to drive.
It has a longer cruising range. Also, I checked that out.
But you're going to need to get out.
I did my homework because super producer Dave Abrams wants me to do my homework.
Because my wife falls asleep and I just drive.
Fine.
So I would take the 3 Series over those. The Cadillac's a fine option. It is utterly
boring,
unexciting.
It's boring.
It's a competent small SUV, and that's about it. So I would take the BMW.
Okay, so it sounds like per the rules, I have to get out of my own dumb rules. I have to get out of the 3 Series, give it to him, and take something else for the little thing I was going to do. You're clearly more important. Anyway, so that's his pick, BMW 3 Series for his road trip with his wife. Good for you. Let's move on to our next segment, which is driven this week at the Auto Test Center.
Oh, but I will bring photos, by the way.
Our next segment is driven this week at the Auto Test Center. And what we drove this week was the 2020 Hyundai Palisade. This is actually, it was a vehicle that we rented from Hyundai. It's the Palisade Limited. It was $47,445 as we drove it. Our usual disclaimer, this is our first impressions of the vehicle. We will be buying a Palisade soon, but these are our first impressions. Most interesting thing about this vehicle is that it's basically the mechanical sibling to the Kia Telluride that we've already tested and that we liked quite a bit. I mean, it found itself nearly at the top of our 3-row SUV ratings. And since you and I already talked, I'm going to throw it to you, John, first. What are your impressions of the Palisade, whether it's versus the Telluride
or versus anything,
versus the other vehicles like the Chevy Traverse, Ford Explorer, Honda Pilot, Toyota Highlander, all those cars in the class?
Since I've been here so long and I've accrued so much vacation, a couple weeks ago I actually took the Kia on a week-long trip. This time with the children, and it's a great vehicle. I in fact, so much so that I don't know if the Hyundai is a necessary step up because it's a little more luxurious, a little more the luxury version. Kia was great on the road. Yep. It's got the same little USB plugs on the back of the front seat, so devices for kids can be charged, where the cable's not being stretched, it's right up front. It's quiet. It rides very well over a variety of surfaces from, I-95 highway to broken Washington, D.C. roads. That's where we went. Huge cargo area when you have the second row up, even roomy with the third row. They're both knock out of the park vehicles, in my opinion. The touch button transmission shifter on the Hyundai, where instead of a conventional one that's in the Kia, it's a little goofy. It's a little overwrought. Yeah. It's a very nice media car too that they have with the quilted seats and such. But again, apples to apples, I don't really see a whole heck of a lot that I would say spend the extra couple $1,000 on the Hyundai.
Quince, what did you find from your driving?
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything John is saying. It's very fancy. I think when you put a passenger in the Palisade that hadn't been in something like that before, they would probably look around and say, "This is nice. This must be really expensive."
We need to just say this was an upper echelon.
Sure,
as most of the cars that they provide the press.
And the one that we rented from Hyundai had the fancy video feed in the instrument panel. So when you're turning right and left, you get this little TV things going on near your there.
It shows the blind spot.
Right, and I found that got old for me fast. So it's kind of a gee whiz thing when you look at it first, and maybe your passenger's like, "Oh, look at that! It's like TV in the instrument panel." I didn't care for that much. There wasn't enough here with the Palisade that made me think, "Oh, I'd much rather have that than the Telluride." But with the Telluride, I mean, we have a lot of fancy SUVs here at the track, expensive SUVs. A bunch of us were talking the other day, and I was saying, forget the high-end European SUVs that we've got. I'll take the Telluride over those any day.
And interesting thing, between friends, just random people I saw, pulling in the hotel or whatever, everyone thinks it's a Range Rover.
Right.
They look at it and they go, this styling is so
and
much.
And also the way that they have the name of the car.
Exactly.
The font.
The font looks very much like a Range Rover.
The Kia looks very, very upscale, like you said.
So this, like I said, this is an upscale. This was a limited upscale trim. I thought that, just like the door panels that are perforated was so beautiful, and the, suede-like headliner. There's just some really nice stuff in there. The way they did the infotainment screen, it's a larger infotainment screen, but they glossy blacked out this entire panel, so it makes it look like it's one of those Mercedes ones that goes all the way across the car.
From the console.
They worked really hard with this car. The Palisade is a little more expensive than the Telluride.
I would say a couple of things in that, how quiet it is.
Yeah,
I would say that the rear seat is extremely roomy for adults and kids. And the way that the seat flips, where you press the button and it just slides. I mean, super attention to detail as far as usability.
And both vehicles did that. The one thing I noticed, first of all, driving it, it felt very much like the Telluride. It would be hard pressed for someone, I think, if they were, don't drive blindfolded, obviously. But if you did that test where you didn't know what the vehicle was, I think you'd be hard pressed to notice the difference. The one thing I noticed was on the Palisade that I didn't remember on the Telluride was when I'd slow down for a turn and then get back on the throttle, sometimes there was a little hesitation where it wasn't sure maybe what gear to be in. But, we're going to hold out judgment on that till we get our own and really see if that is an issue. And it was only a minor issue, but it was something I noticed.
I've experienced that with the V6.
Yeah.
It's just, and it could be just the way I drive. I'm just not mashing it. So I just kind of light throttle. It for me, it's felt like a delay.
You're a dainty driver.
I'm a dainty driver. Yeah, that's why I'm taking the 3 Series.
Yeah, that's not a dainty car. Anyway, so we do have a first drive up on consumerreports.org of the Hyundai Palisade. So go check that out for more information on the car. Moving on to our next segment, audience questions. We love hearing from you guys. TalkingCars@iCloud.com. Remember to send those comments and questions, video clips in. So let's go to the first question. This is from Tom. Tom says, the Kia Niro, recommended in 2018, lost that recommendation in the 2019 annual auto issue. Its reliability rating moves from much better than average to better than average, which is still good. Its overall score dropped, though the two models are essentially the same. The 2019 was given a top safety pick in the IIHS ratings. Could you please tell me what accounts for the loss of recommendation? I'm considering buying one, and I am confused. So, Quince, can you help Tom out here with his confusion? What's going on here with the reliability stuff?
Sure. Well, every year we do our surveys, our owner satisfaction and reliability surveys. Honestly, it's one of the things that makes Consumer Reports as famous as it is. And last year's survey showed that the Niro had a very good predicted reliability, but when we did the latest survey, it dropped a little bit, and just that drop in in overall reliability with this car punched it out of the recommended threshold, I suppose. I mean, it was kind of on the cusp last year when it was recommended. It was just right at the edge of the most reliable. Among the fuel efficient ratings category.
Right.
And as we like to say here, because we test the vast majority of the vehicles on the market, in the case of the Niro, we usually will say something like, there probably are better choices. The Niro isn't a bad car. It's fuel efficient. It's a pretty solid performer. But when you compare it to others in its class, like the Prius, it's just several steps behind.
Yeah, and so in the process of this, it fell down the list a little bit, so it doesn't look, quite as good as it did before, even though the car hasn't changed.
And its overall score,
right?
Yeah, the road test score has stayed the same.
Right. So we didn't retest it. You're just using new data, and that happens every time we have the survey. We're going to have new data. It's refreshed. And sometimes even the threshold for recommendation may change over time just because vehicles get better. And, we're pushing the bar that manufacturers must achieve to get a recommendation.
Right.
Like you said, it's a good car. If you want to say, I bought a recommended car, okay, well then you have to get one with the checkmark recommendation.
Right.
But you could say, as a consumer, and my opinion in a sense, you can look at road tests. Maybe road test is the most important. Maybe reliability is the most important. Or maybe overall score. Maybe it's fuel economy and you just want the most fuel efficient car, but it just happens to have had a bad year of reliability. It depends on what the person wants to choose. The Niro is the same vehicle it was. And it's still pretty darn reliable.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And this reliability data that we have changes every year. Sometimes the cars stay exactly the same with their rating. Sometimes they go up from where they were. Sometimes they go a little bit down. And in this case, it went down and it affected its overall score.
Yep.
So that's basically what's going on there, Tom. So let's move on to the next question. The next question is from Joshua. Joshua says, my son turns 15 in about a week, and if I can find a mall parking lot, I will put him behind the wheel for the first time, as my father did with me. My father also made me learn to drive with a manual transmission, which made me much more active with the driving experience. My question is, and please don't share with Jennifer, as I can picture her rolling her eyes at me, kidding, should my child's first car not include some of the safety features such as blind spot monitoring, maybe even automatic emergency braking, to encourage a more attentive driving situation? So the first thing is we have to collectively roll our eyes for Jen. So we are not actors, believe it or not, folks. John,
dear.
I'm going to throw this to you first, John. This is an interesting question because I've actually never seen a question like this before, where someone said maybe I shouldn't get these safety systems, and it's not a stupid question at all. It's an interesting way to look at it. You know.
Okay, so we'll unpack it by going manual, great to keep younger generation driving manual transmissions. Cool. And I mean, I went.
Save the manuals.
Yes, save the manuals. And I wanted a manual so badly, but I learned on an automatic. And I think that I also then drove I wanted to drive my dad's 65 Corvette. So, there's a reason. I would say with so many of the distractions on the road, there's so much going on. It's just different than 10, 15, 20 years ago that for a new driver, learn with an automatic, get everything down, add in manual transmission, clutching a bit. Make sure you get the fundamentals of driving down. My opinion. Maybe it varies. It's something almost to achieve to in the sense of, look, get driving down, and then we'll go to the manual, and you'll have fun, and we can look for the car. As far as looking for a car with the safety features, I would say that blind spot warning, I think, is really good just because styling has dropped windows and made greenhouses, the window area smaller, and
it's harder to see out of the car.
It's harder to see out of a car, and there's there's just, again, there's more traffic on the road. It's more urban situation. It's a really great help. I'm not going to say go far as say like, well, no, don't get safety features, but it may be with a used car, and I don't know if he's looking at a new or used vehicle.
Right, he didn't say.
It may be hard to find that unicorn of a car that's in my price range that's going to have forward collision warning and automatic emergency braking and blind spot, because some of the cars that are great choices that have manuals, they were only optional in a 3 or 4 year ago time period, which is kind of the sweet spot of used cars.
Not as common as it is now.
Quince,
yeah.
Sure. So Quince, 2 questions for you. One, Do you differ on that, John's opinion, John's suggestions, and also do you have any cars that you can recommend that would maybe even have a manual and some FCW or AEB?
I drove a manual before I drove an automatic.
Me too.
And that's neither here nor there.
Doesn't make us better than you, John.
My first car was a manual.
My 19-year-old son drove an automatic first, but then learned to drive the manual. So just because your child starts out with an automatic doesn't mean they can't eventually transition over to a manual.
Right.
That being said, there are some cars out there. I'm not saying they're going to be easy to find, but if you're in the market for a used car, look for a 2016 to 2017 Honda Accord. It was available with a manual transmission and automatic emergency braking, which is kind of, for me, that would be one of the great kind of used car bargains for a young driver, but has a lot of safety features. Yeah. If you can go new, the Toyota Corolla sedan and the Toyota Corolla hatchback, both available with a manual transmission and standard forward collision warning and automatic emergency braking on every trim line. So those kinds of cars are available. They're out there. I'm not saying they're easy to find. You might have to order one, certainly the new one, and wait for it. But hats off to Dad saying, "You're gonna drive a manual."
Right.
Good on you.
Well, a couple of things just before we wrap this up. You also want to look for electronic stability control, which was mandated by the federal government since 2012. Is readily available on some models since 2010. So you can look for that. Make sure that if possible, you also want to make sure the kid has that. We always say, get as many safety systems as you can on the car that you can afford. Obviously it depends on, not everyone can afford a brand new car for their kid. But that's what you want, is the most amount of safety systems as you possibly can.
But giving your young driver every advantage possible is really, as parents, that's the thing that's most important.
Absolutely. Also, look for, we have a few stories up online, best cars for teen drivers, as well as best used cars for teens. So check that out on consumerreports.org. There's a lot of helpful information in there. And our last question is from Rebecca. Rebecca says, I own a 2014 Ford Fusion Hybrid averaging 40 mpg, and I'm looking to upgrade to a 3-row SUV. My family is growing soon, so cargo space and fuel economy are important to me, as is the functionality of the infotainment system. I've narrowed my search down to the Toyota Highlander Hybrid, great gas mileage for class, but old tech, Mazda CX-9, good tech, but less cargo and passenger space, or Subaru Ascent, lots of space, but lackluster infotainment. To add to my struggle, there are new vehicles in the class coming out in the next year or two. Should I wait it out and see what the 2020 models bring, or is there a clear winner? All right, who wants to take this first? John's
never a clear winner here.
So go ahead, John.
So good on her for her narrowing.
She
narrowing down the
really
choices
summed up
well. And hit a lot of things that we hit on.
Yep.
I think the one surprise I had was that she goes as far as to talk about the Fusion hybrid fuel economy. But moving to those big SUVs, that's a huge drop. I mean, huge drop, particularly if you're driving around town.
And a huge drop in different driving experience.
But I understand the need for SUV, and she doesn't say. I mean, maybe her family is 4, and she's going to 6, or she's going.
You're
to
going to be in the 20s.
We don't know,
20s.
right? We don't know all the circumstances. So I would, as much as I'm not a personal fan of a lot of the newer Toyotas, again, personally, I would say the Highlander Hybrid. It's going to give her the best mileage. The tech is fine. It's not cutting edge, exciting. But it works.
It's functional.
Yeah, it works.
It's easy to figure out.
Yes.
It's a simple car to live with. I didn't mean to jump in, but I also was gonna go with the Toyota Highlander Hybrid, mostly because you really, for the size, you can't beat its fuel economy. And the reliability record is outstanding.
And it's the final year. You could get a final run before it's redesigned this fall, which I think she mentioned, or it is getting redesigned, and you may not have a hybrid the first one. So that's another consideration of get one before it's replaced.
Yeah, and at this point, Toyota has a great record of when they build a car for a long time. Toward the end of its model year or model run, there's no more bugs to work out.
Right.
The only alternative that I was going to offer up, and this is kind of crazy, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, but
you're a nut.
Let's get crazy.
The Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid. Now, it doesn't have near the reliability of the Toyota Highlander, but In terms of a family vehicle, it's awesome. In terms of fuel economy, it's really surprising. I know that we tested the first Pacific, we were kind of like, but then we tested the hybrid version, and we're like, this car got better.
Yeah.
Maybe the extra weight of the batteries made it hunker down a little bit. It rode better. It handled better. Yeah. The fuel economy was really impressive. But I not in good conscience, I can't say get this because according to Consumer Reports reliability surveys, the Pacifica is below average.
Well, she could even plug it in a garage if she has access to the garage. She could plug it. It's a plug-in hybrid.
Right.
She could charge it overnight and actually get a decent charge versus a pure plug-in.
So. I know I kind of threw a wrench in the monkey works there, but
that's what you do.
That's what I do.
You guys want to know what I have to think, or what I
should we say no? No,
so
of course,
is that
of
it
course.
for the episode?
No,
go ahead. Tell us.
I think I would say, I would think maybe Kia Telluride. We've been really impressed with that vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at it, if you think, the Subaru Ascent is tops in the class right now. This is a nicer driving vehicle than that. I think in many ways.
Definitely.
Doesn't have as cushy of a ride. That's true. But it doesn't have a CVT, the continuously variable transmission that the Subaru has. It has a really nice V6, has tons of room.
Infotainment's good.
Infotainment's, we go on and on about how simple Hyundai's and Kia's infotainment systems and controls are to use. But the downside, the one caveat would be with both the Palisade and the Telluride is that they are brand new vehicles. And so we usually say maybe wait for model year 2. And if she can't wait for model year 2, then I would say, but that said, Kia and Hyundai's reliability are usually pretty good. They're usually, a little, slightly above average. So,
right. Well,
I think you're not taking a huge chance if you go with it.
We have often seen that Hyundai comes out with the vehicle first, and their vehicle has reliability. So maybe it's average.
Right.
Maybe it replaced an above average or a well above average car, and it's average, or even it has a little problem. And then Kia comes out a year or so later with this basically the same exact thing,
learns
but with
from
the
it,
Kia, and they've already incorporated those fixes into their running line.
Mm-hmm.
So the first year Kia has far better reliability. So maybe the Hyundai will be the choice for her because Kia is already out.
Later. Yeah.
B, you may just want to wait until year 2 at least for the Kia, which would be almost, and then year 2 with the Hyundai.
Yeah. So hopefully that helps you out, Rebecca. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Don't forget to click on the links in the show notes for more information on the cars we talked about. And of course, send your questions and comments and 30-second video clips to talkingcars@icloud.com. That's it for the show. We'll see you all next week.